Zach, the AP poll came out and they robbed us of Texas, Ohio State, number 1-2 matchup in the preseason. But that's okay. That's okay because Penn State does deserve to be up there. If not number 2, they deserve to, at the very least, be in the top 3 somewhere. So I'm not going to complain too much or anything. I do think it would be cool to have a 1 versus 2 matchup in the opener, but that's fine. It sounded like it was very, very close between Texas and Penn State. I forget which.
Two votes. Two votes.
2 votes, and it was like 5 points between the 2 or something like that when you add up all the points. So crazy close between those 2. Really cool for them. I have a number of thoughts here, but I'm going to let you give your first takeaway before I get into the SEC Big Ten madness, unless you just want to go ahead and start with it right away.
Well, let's talk about SEC later. Because I actually have maybe a differing thought than you do, but my first thought is I actually am surprised that they had Illinois at 12. Good on them for having them above South Carolina. Good on them for having Illinois above Michigan. I thought that was really good. I thought the fact that Ole Miss and Tennessee
the bar is so low. If we're setting the bar there, like, hey, good job, AP voters. You had Illinois above South Carolina. The bar is so low for them.
Well, but we were ripping them on our last show for saying they're going to screw over Illinois, and they didn't. So, right. I feel like we got to give them props for that. I thought they appropriately rated Ole Miss and I don't think Tennessee should be in the poll. But they're 24th. So, again, good for them. They didn't completely overrate Tennessee. They didn't completely overrate Ole Miss. I thought, they have Boise State as the token group of 5 team in there because, of course, they do. I think there's a lot of this where I'm like, it's not terrible. I will say I think there probably should have been a USC or an Iowa down there. I think if they didn't have Boise,
Washington,
Nebraska, but at the same time, USC was 6-6 or 7-6. Iowa was disappointing last year. So I can understand why they don't have them. I can understand why you don't have Nebraska in there because they're very much in a prove it to us. So I don't have a ton of complaints in this. I still, probably the biggest question mark, aside from SEC stuff, which we'll talk about, is the smattering of ACC and Big 12 teams where you're like, is K-State really going to be 17th? Is Iowa State really 22nd? I think that's maybe where some of my questions are. But Miami 10th, what are we falling for Miami to be the cream of the crop in the ACC? That's probably my big takeaways is I'm not sure the media actually knows what to do with the ACC and the Big 12.
No, they don't. Can I go on a rant now?
Go ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
Why in the world are we ranking 10 SEC teams in the AP poll, Zach? It's a record. It's a record for the most teams ranked in a preseason poll ever. And it's not the team that just won 2 back-to-back national championships from their conference. It's the group that had 2 playoff wins last year, and only 3 playoff teams. Only 3 playoff teams, 2 playoff wins, and somehow that conference gets 10 freaking teams in the AP poll top 25. You want to know how many teams they had in the AP poll last year, Zach? You want to know how many?
9.
9. They had 9 last year. 9. After not winning the national championship, they give them 9. That tied the record for the preseason. Now they just go right on over it with 10. Zach, the SEC has not increased their number of teams in the AP poll from the preseason to the final AP poll since 2018. You want to know what happened around 2018?
No.
That was when the 9 conference games for the Big Ten happened.
There we go.
It was technically 2016, but still around that same time, even with a conference game advantage, they cannot increase the number of teams they get into the AP poll because there is so much bias toward the SEC. You're ranking teams like Tennessee and Ole Miss, who have dropped off a cliff with their returning production, who have lost their star players, and you're ranking them above teams like USC, Nebraska, Iowa, Washington, who actually has star players. Like, it's completely ridiculous that we're at this point where the SEC is progressively getting worse and worse, and instead of the media recognizing it and actually doing something about it, they are just continuing to elevate them and inflate them more and more and more. I'm not coming on here and saying the Big Ten needs 10 teams in the AP poll. I think that's insane. I don't think any conference should have 10 teams in there, okay? But what I am saying is that the SEC should have had no more than 8. No more than 8. I would have not been happy about 8, but I would have been okay with it. The fact that they had 10 teams and you don't see USC, who by the way beat number 9 and beat number 19 on here last year. I know the USC didn't have a great year in the Big Ten, but do you think maybe that's because the Big Ten is just that tough? Do you think maybe it's the travel? Do you think maybe they're going through a lot with Notre Dame on their out-of-conference schedule in addition to 9 conference games? Do you think maybe that's really, really difficult for them to do? No, because nobody actually has any objectivity here. Oregon's traveling nearly 9,000 miles to play different games. USC's right behind them with about 8,000 miles traveling around, and they're like, oh, well, dopey Tennessee should just still be up there. It's completely ridiculous. Nebraska should be ranked. Iowa should be ranked. USC, or I'm saying one of these 4 teams, USC, Nebraska, Iowa, or Washington, preferably 2 of them should be ranked. And it's completely ridiculous that they're not. It's completely ridiculous that even when the SEC is getting worse and worse and worse, they are continuing to be elevated more and more and more. And yes, I did just have an aneurysm. Zach, please take over while I recover.
Don't have an aneurysm. Don't do that.
I'm going to leave the show to you. I'm going to have it, and you're going to take the rest of the show, Zach.
No. But okay, so maybe I'm about to give you another aneurysm. I don't know. Is it bad that I don't care that much that they have 10?
I mean, I guess if you like reading Peter Burns' tweets where he talks about how LSU's playing 7 ranked teams, like it's the best thing in the world, sure.
Peter Burns, I don't understand why that guy's employed. Well, I do.
Because the SEC network needs somebody that will tweet about them all the time, and he's the only one that will.
That's that. Yeah, you answered my question. Good job. So my biggest qualms are with Florida, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M, because I have a qualm about Tennessee as well. But I'm like, I can understand when you're backfilling and you're choosing between teams that went to the playoff a year ago versus teams that went 7-6 a year ago. Like, I can understand that. Oklahoma is ranked solely because of John Mateer. Like, that's all that is. They have shown nothing to me that they've improved other than a quarterback who went under 500 for Wazoo. That's
they do have better receivers because their entire receiver room isn't injured. So that's where they're improved too. But yeah, I'm with you.
I don't care. They lost to Navy. My goodness. Like, that's just dumb. So I have issues with that. I have issues with A&M because they lost to USC in their bowl game. They do this every year with A&M. They're back. They're not back. Like, what are we doing? And I have issues that both of them are ranked ahead of Indiana, because Indiana, I think, more than those teams, upgraded in the portal. I think they got the better quarterback in Fernando Mendoza over John Mateer. So, like, if we're going to rank it because Oklahoma got a good transfer quarterback, okay, apply the same logic to Indiana, who, by the way, was a playoff team a year ago. I don't care what their schedule was. They upgraded in the portal. Good for
But
them.
Zach, but Zach, Indiana and Illinois only beat one ranked team.
Yeah. Maybe that's okay. You make a
I
good
can't
point
believe that
here.
was I can't believe that was actually used on me today on Twitter. They said, "Well, Indiana and Illinois only beat one ranked team." Okay. Did they beat Michigan too? Just like Texas did when Michigan was number 9 in the country or whatever they were, a top 10 team? And did Texas ride on that the entire time and never get decreased because Michigan started getting worse and worse and nobody ever actually adjusted for it? Anyway, sorry. I'm
It's
not trying to
fair.
go at Michigan right now.
No, no. I mean, I'm just. I, like ultimately, I think what's going to happen, and I think Jeff makes a great point. Oh shoot, wrong one. The preseason rankings don't get me upset at all. Just go out and win, and things will take care of themselves. I think if you see, like, if Michigan takes care of Oklahoma in week 2, Oklahoma's going to be out of the poll, and they're going to go back to irrelevancy. And so I think that's part of it. I think if USC, if they start out hot, which they should with their schedule, they're going to make it back into the poll. I think if Nebraska starts out hot, they're going to make it back in the poll. And hopefully, this is my hope. And someone was, maybe it was you, maybe it was someone else. They talked about how overrated the SEC has been. That will be more and more the talking point if they lose and don't perform, which I think we're going to see. Like, I think Tennessee, where they're at with all their losses, including Nico, do we really think they're going to have enough wins to stay in that bottom part of the poll? I don't think so. I think the same thing is true with Oklahoma. I think the same thing is true with A&M. Like, I think we're going to see some teams drop out. And I think if the Big Ten teams actually do their job, they're going to build staying power, which unfortunately, like, I thought one of the great things about a year ago was we had a lot of parity in the middle of the league, right? Minnesota was decent. Rutgers was decent, but it led to I think their gain was other teams' loss. So like Washington, if Washington beats one or two other teams, they're probably ranked preseason. You know, USC, if they're 9-4 last year instead of 7-6, they're probably ranked. So in some ways, I would argue that some of these Big Ten teams have kind of shot themselves in the foot, but they can rectify that this year. Like, to your credit, USC was what, 28th in the preseason poll, or in others receiving votes.
Yeah, like 28th or 29th.
Yeah. So like, they win a couple games, teams will lose, they'll be in the poll. So I'm less concerned about the amount of teams. I'm just grateful that certain teams are lower, because I was terrified that Tennessee would be like 15th. And I'm like, there's no reason why they should be 15th. So
I understand what you and Jeff are saying, and I respect it, but I completely disagree. Because it just goes to show how much bias there is in the AP poll. And again, you have 9 conference games for the Big Ten, which means if the Big Ten plays and wins, they're going to be knocking another Big Ten team down. Yes, if Michigan beats Oklahoma, Oklahoma will most likely not be ranked, or at least be on the fringe of not being ranked. But if Michigan in week 4 beats Nebraska, Nebraska's going to be nowhere close to being ranked. And if Nebraska beats Michigan, Michigan's going to drop like flies down lower, because it's going to be thought, oh, well, Michigan lost to Nebraska. They're not even a ranked team or anything like that. So that's the biggest issue for me, is it's the perception of it all. If Michigan beats Oklahoma, that's great. That's awesome, and that will definitely help. But then if Michigan goes on to lose to Nebraska, or if USC goes on to who's somebody they're playing early that could be ranked. I mean, if they go on and lose to Illinois, people don't view a loss to Illinois, although the number is up there, they don't view that the same as a loss to, South Carolina or Florida or something like that because they're not of the SEC conference. And so that's where the biggest issue is. It's showing the bias that the media has, number one, and number two, it's setting things up in the future because Big Ten teams are going to mostly beat other Big Ten teams. And when that happens, and if Indiana beats Illinois, or if Illinois beats Indiana, you're going to see Indiana drop out of the rankings, just like you would see Michigan if they beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma drops out or is on the very fringe of dropping out. And Oklahoma might not even drop out if that happens. So that's my biggest thing. It sets the stage for where everything is in college football. It talks about the ranked wins and everything else, which is just such a bogus stat, and it makes it more difficult for other teams that should be given the opportunity. Auburn got more votes to be ranked than Iowa. Let that sink in. Auburn got more votes to be ranked than Iowa. Auburn's about ready to fire Hugh Freeze. It's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter. I would agree. I do think it makes it uphill, like it's an uphill battle for other Big Ten teams.
When you're already starting at a steeper hill than the SEC because you have 9 conference games.
Yeah, I think more my point is I think this could have been prevented if USC and Washington and Nebraska and Iowa, to be honest, didn't shoot themselves in the foot. Like, I think that's because that this this conference bias is going to happen. It would have been a lot harder for them to do it if Washington went 8-5 or 9-4 a year ago instead of 6-7.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I think you are valid in your thought. I can understand why it went this way because Big Ten teams didn't do what they needed to do a year ago to kind of get themselves in a good position. And to be fair, neither did ACC or Big 12 teams.
Well, yeah, but the ACC and the Big 12 are nowhere near what the Big 10 is.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, like, if we're going after the SEC, you got to consider those teams too.
Yeah. All right. Anything else here before we move on?
Only that I just want to make sure that you're healthy, that everything's okay. No aneurysms moving forward. We good?
Yeah, we'll see. Not making any promises yet. Music says here, M-U-Z-I-K. That's a fun name. Music, I don't think I've ever seen you here. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here. Says the SEC is way overrated. This is how they stay in the poll because they get to start way ahead of everyone else. I could not agree more. And that's something we talk about all the time on here. And it's that stupid ranked win thing that Peter Burns is tweeting out there and everything else. It's such an misrepresented stat that Anyway,
agreed.
We gotta move on, but I did want to bring music up there because I think you made a really good comment. We have other really good comments too, just don't have time for all of them. Thank you everybody for being in the comment section, in the chat. You all who do a great job.